Welcome back to Marvel Good Yay, our spin-off series of the Geek Easy Podcast, where we're going back and taking a look at every single MCU film leading up to the release of Avengers Endgame. I am Pixel Dan,
Jonathan Leonard,
and Jaron McCaffrey.
And today we are discussing Iron Man 3.
the best Iron Man sequel
Okay,
in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe.
All right, I'll agree. I will also agree with that right up front. The best Iron Man sequel. Yes, I agree with that.
Man, I love this one.
Yeah, this movie's great.
I
did not mean that to sound like a disparaging comment.
No. But I'm sitting here thinking I'm not sure I don't like it better than Iron Man.
Yeah.
Really?
I think you mentioned that.
I definitely still like Iron Man.
Yeah,
I think
you mentioned that possibility earlier in one of the minisodes. So I was looking forward to getting to this point.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I don't, but I really do like this one.
I love this movie. Man.
I do not think I have seen this movie since the theater until I watched it for this podcast.
Really?
There was so much about this movie that I had just completely forgotten
Totally
about.
forgot it was a Christmas movie, didn't you?
I did forget it was a Christmas movie completely. There was a lot about it that I felt like I really re-experienced this movie since the first time I've seen it, and I very much enjoyed it. I do remember this movie having a lot of criticism when it came out. I feel like a lot of people didn't like this movie. That was like a thing, right?
Well, I think it's one of those things you would hear people talk about.
Yeah.
Sure made a lot of money.
Yeah.
People sure went and saw it. You know what I mean?
Well, why don't you give us some of the facts on the movie?
Yeah,
as far as the money goes.
let's see. This one went in with a $200 million budget. It had the Avengers bump.
Yes.
Which boosted its box office. I think, the first Iron Man clocked in worldwide somewhere around 500 million. I think the lower 500 million, and then the second Iron Man broke 600 million, and then this one doubled that.
Wow.
We're looking at $1.2 billion worldwide. That's $409 domestically, $805 outside the U.S. for that 1.2 total. So it's, I think, the second Marvel movie to bust through the $1 billion mark.
Yeah.
First one being the Avengers, obviously.
Right.
But really rode that. And this was a full year later.
Yep.
So we had a year hiatus between our Marvel movies. And then, like I said, there's that Avengers bump because nobody knew exactly what, Avengers was the end game, if you will, of Phase 1. That's what everything was building to, and it did actually have an ending. There was a lead off, but it was the completion of a story also. Yeah. And so then we had that year-long hiatus, and then they went back to their strongest property to kick off Phase 2 and into the future, and that's Iron Man, obviously. And like I said, I sort of remember that. I feel like you're right as far as mixed reviews go, but at the same time, I don't know anybody who didn't like it.
Right.
And it sure made a ton of money worldwide.
Yeah.
And it certainly wasn't poorly reviewed.
Yeah.
Maybe not as high as some of the others. But it dealt with some kind of weird themes, and it didn't exactly fit in with what has become the Marvel formula either, which they were still in the phase of figuring out that formula anyway.
Yeah.
This really feels more like a standalone movie than anything else they've done since probably the first Iron Man or beyond.
Maybe.
Well, I think like what you were saying with it feeling a little different too. Like we did just come off of Avengers, and Avengers was like the full-on superhero spectacle. You know what I mean? And then this movie kind of took it back to. It took it back to more of a solo, standalone feeling movie that was less about superheroes versus supervillains. Like, it had that stuff in there, but it wasn't so in your face and comic booky the way Avengers was. And maybe that has something to do with the way people felt about it, because they just came off of seeing Avengers and then going into this.
It had a more serious tone to it in a lot of ways too, because it dealt with a PTSD issue. It's a Shane Black movie. It's important to bring that up because if you know Shane Black movies, he's definitely got a style all of his own. But I mean, he's also got experience working with Robert Downey Jr. They had done Kiss Kiss Bang Bang shortly before the first Iron Man, and I believe Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is one of the reasons Robert Downey Jr. got the Tony Stark role in the first place. And so it kind of brings it full circle there. And that was one of the exciting things for me going in was, I mean, these guys are great together, and I want to see that, but with a suit of armor.
Right.
And it's exactly what I got, you know. But again, it's got that... it deals with more serious issues. They put the Christmas theme into the mix there too.
Yeah.
It is a solo adventure without any real mention of... I mean, they mention the New York incident because that's how they play into the PTSD.
Right.
But there's not a lot of play into the bigger world of the MCU.
Yeah.
They really bring it back down.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there's some important things that happen to the Iron Man character throughout this movie that I think sort of get lost as events, you know, because afterwards we sort of veer away from Iron Man for a long time after this, for several years after this movie, before he shows up again. As you all remember, also nobody really knew what Robert Downey Jr.'s future was after this movie.
I was gonna say this movie almost felt like an ending to Iron Man.
Well, and I think
they filmed it that way.
It was
just
designed
that
way.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I think he was contractually obligated for more Avengers movies.
Yeah.
They knew he would be back, but they didn't know if there was going to be an Iron Man 4.
Right.
They certainly didn't know he was going to start showing up in Captain America and Spider-Man movies.
Yep.
You know, none of that new contract stuff had been worked out yet.
Yeah.
So this was kind of booked as booked.
Yeah.
Was kind of written as an ending of sorts, at least for the solo adventures, if they needed it to be.
Right.
We'll kind of talk about how it ends as we get there.
Yeah.
But
And we also weren't really, I mean, we weren't full into where they were like, here's our next 10 years of movies, guys.
yes,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
they hadn't announced the schedule yet,
Right.
or anything.
So this was all still kind of, hey, Avengers worked.
Who
knows what's going to happen now?
Yeah, what happens next?
And like you said, you know, coming down off of Avengers, there was no way. I don't think anything could have followed up Avengers at this point.
It's a tough follow.
You know?
It's a tough follow. I remember Mandarin causing a little bit of controversy, which we'll definitely. I don't know. How do you guys want to do that? Do you want to like break this down piece by piece, or do you just want to talk about like stuff in the movie? Like, I'll let you.
We can break it down. We don't need to go scene by scene, but we can kind of try to do it in order.
Jaren's got notes too.
We could roll through my notes.
Yeah, let's do it that way.
So first, man, it opened with "I'm Blue."
Yeah, because it was like 1999, right?
Yeah, it was like a throwback scene.
Yeah.
Which was a fun scene too because it had was he Yusef? Was that his name? The guy from the cave.
Yeah.
The first Iron Man.
Trying to get Tony's attention.
Yeah.
I thought that was
because I think they had mentioned in the first Iron Man having met once.
We had met once. Yes.
Yeah, and so we actually got to see the blow off scene, which was kind of neat.
Aldrich Killian shows up in there. He meets Aldrich Killian for the first time.
Yeah.
He is such a nerd. You know what I mean? Like he is such a weird, awkward little. Like it's great.
Yeah,
I was cracking up, man.
Yeah.
He was cracking me up, and it was fun to see. You know, Tony Stark's kind of grown up a little bit, so it was kind of fun to see. It was kind of fun to see this Tony again.
Yeah.
Because it's like the Tony that was in the beginning of
the first Iron Man.
Yeah.
You know,
just an absolute jerk.
Absolute jerk. You know, it was kind of fun to see that. So I enjoyed that scene. And then that plant blew up.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd forgotten about that. So one of the things I noticed about this, I remembered really liking this movie. I remembered all the broad strokes. There were tons and tons of little moments that I'd completely forgotten about that I wouldn't say I re-experienced it, but I did like there was so much stuff where I was like, I don't remember that. That's awesome. I don't remember that. See, you know what I mean? Stuff like that popped me throughout the.
Okay, cool.
So I'd forgotten. Like I remembered the storyline. So he meets this botanist, right, who sets up, and we set up kind of the idea of her process, which is healing, right? And tapping into the healing centers of the brain or whatever, and using that to be able to heal stuff. And she's done it with this plant, supposedly. She's a botanist, or she's not, but she's whatever she is. Yeah. So she's got that plant. And she gets mad at Happy for messing with it. And then when she leaves the room with Tony, to go talk some more to Tony Stark, and Happy rips off that leaf, and then it quickly regrows the leaf, and then explodes.
Yeah.
I was like, I'd forgotten that the plant exploded. You know, I remembered her role in the big story. I'd forgotten about the plant and the plant exploding, so I laughed really hard when that plant exploded.
Well, remember too.
And then Happy came in and tackled it.
Dude.
He's like, "What are you doing? It's not Y2K."
Yeah, that was great.
Also, real quick aside, it starts off with narration from Tony and setting up the scene from the past, and this will be important as it plays around through. This also really gave it that kind of kiss kiss bang bang feeling. Into that. This felt like a Shane Black way of telling this story, but he's setting it up himself, taking you back in time and then forward, and you'll see some of this narration throughout the movie also.
Yeah.
So then, did you want to talk about anything else? So then that's the flashback, him meeting this girl and him blowing off Aldrich Killian.
Being really mean to Killian.
And creating some demons, you know, and he kind of points that out in what you were talking about, the voiceover narration. So then we flash forward where he is to him testing some new Iron Man tech and some new buildings. I laughed really hard because Jarvis tells, you know, he's like, "Are we ready to go?" And he's like, "I've prepared a safety briefing for you to ignore." So I laughed really hard. I almost feel like looking forward and knowing where we're going. I almost feel maybe like, and maybe that's not a discussion for this. I almost feel like Jarvis is too self-aware.
Okay.
You know, considering where it's going. I'm just, you know, I know we'll talk about Ultron later, but, you know, I mean, we know where we're going with Ultron.
Right,
right.
You know what I mean? For considering that they're like later, you know, there's not a discernible enough difference for me that, you know, them discovering, you know, making Ultron. You've already got Jarvis, man. Jarvis makes jokes and makes fun of you and anticipates you. Like, what else do you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, so not
okay.
Not science that bugs me.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Now that I understand what you're saying.
Yep.
I would have said it was more important to the creation of Ultron that, like, you can already see how much Jarvis is advancing.
Yeah.
To the point where he can become that, you know.
Yeah.
But like you said, neither here nor there.
Right.
While we're on Jarvis, I wanted to bring up, I don't know if you guys noticed this Easter egg, because I noticed in this movie is the first time I noticed, in the living room there's a stocking in the back that says Jarvis on it. So Jarvis has his own stocking on the fireplace. But the Easter egg with it is that it's green and yellow and red. So they totally put a Vision Easter egg on there with Jarvis already here in Iron Man 3, and I thought that was really interesting because I totally didn't catch that before. Like, I noticed this time that Jarvis had a stocking, and then when I looked it up, that was like a known Easter egg in the movie. It was that it was Vision colored, and it's like,
I never knew that at all.
So I thought that was kind of fun.
So we see him working on his Iron Man suits, and then we also see the current situation at Stark Enterprises. Is that what it is? I don't know what the company's called.
Industries.
Stark Industries. Okay.
You also get the first glimpse into the. I mean, he talks about how he's not sleeping.
Yeah.
He keeps on working.
He's been away
they make a reference
where
like
at this point.
because Pepper even makes a comment like what are you up to version or Mark 15 now?
Yeah.
Like it's an exaggeration,
right.
And he looks down and he's on 42.
Yeah,
because he just can't stop tinkering.
This is probably early to point out, but like. So, like, you know, they had start making a bigger deal at this point. Like, every Iron Man movie, he's got a new costume, right? Which is fine, because Tony Stark always upgrades the Iron Man armor. I remember all the hype building up to this movie about the Mark 42 armor. And I love how Mark 42 is effectively a dud through the whole movie. Mark 42 never works. Never works. Through the entire, all the way till the end, Mark 42 never works. It is a dud of an armor, and I think that's hilarious.
Well, the one time it saves Pepper.
It did save Pepper.
It works when it saves Pepper.
But even like his man, and I know it's all the way at the end, but even all the way at the end, he tries to like call it. To, like, it fails, and it cracks me up. It's just like, man, I love that like Mark 42 was like a thing. And then in the movie, it's just it's a failure of a suit. I love it. It's so funny.
Okay. So Happy has become the head of security at Stark Industries. Yeah. I just loved that entire scene with him freaking out of badges.
And nobody's wearing their badges. And he's mad about
he's chasing everybody around the store.
Hey, badge. Badge. Yeah.
She goes, since you've taken over, staff complaints have gone up 300%. He's like, well, thank you very much.
Well, and then what's he say? The human component. The human component is our biggest weakness. We should phase it out immediately.
Tony's got machines down there wearing dunce caps.
That's
right.
I cracked up. That thing was wearing the dunce cap. Oh man, we haven't seen those robo arms in a long time.
Well, we'll talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Happy. So Pepper meets with Aldrich Killian. They do some stuff. I don't have any notes for that. Do you guys have any
he
thoughts
really breaks down kind of the crux of this extremist stuff because he first of all, he is of perfect health now, whereas beyond just being an uber dweeb in the 1999 scene, there's clearly something physically ailing him. And you can see it on Pepper's face how surprised she is to see him. Now he looks like Guy Pearce.
He's super tall and handsome. And like you said, Guy Pearce.
And so he gives her this giant hologram of his own brain and kind of explains that if you can tap into these sections that control these different things. I don't know the science behind it, but basically the idea is if you can reprogram parts of the brain, you can heal anything in the body to the point of even like regrowing limbs and all that stuff. So it kind of sets you up for that. Doesn't get you into the nefarious parts of it, but gives you that build of sort of what they're doing, and it's reminiscent of what the botanist was doing in the beginning, so it kind of builds that bridge right there. And then Happy has that altercation with Killian's security guard or bodyguard or whatever that guy is, that James Badge Dale.
Well, he had his badge.
Yeah.
So this is also though the part where we find out that Killian's company is AIM, right?
Yes. No, they said that in the elevator.
Oh, they said it in the elevator. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. So and that's a big deal for the comic book fans out there because AIM is like, as far as the Marvel comics go, AIM was essentially like the modern day shoot off of Hydra. Yeah. And so like it was like its own basically like shoot off army, military, whatever group that was like Hydra. And this is going to be total disconnect as far as these go, but on the last Geek Easy podcast we were just talking about MODOK.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because he's getting his own show, and I mistakenly said that he was from the X-Men universe, but I'm wrong. Okay. Because MODOK was the leader of AIM in the books.
Oh, okay.
So, like, he was, like, created by AIM and then took over AIM as, like, the leader of AIM. So MODOK's, he's more like a Captain America Iron Man character. So I thought that was really interesting, that the way that they brought AIM into the movies, but it's still very disconnected from the way it actually is in the books. Yeah. It's almost kind of here in name only in the movies. And this becomes a bit of a theme in this movie that I'm going to point out as we're talking about it. I feel like this is one of the... I don't know if I want to say only, but I feel like it's the first instance in the MCU where they threw a whole bunch of comic book stuff in the movie, but really had no relation to the actual stuff in the books.
Right.
There's multiple times where there are comic book things happening in this movie that are very different from the way they are in the comic books.
Yeah.
And I like, as more things popped up, I was like, that and that and that. So as we're going, I'm going to point out
There's kind of
things.
a big one I want to talk about when we get towards the end too, because I'm not sure.
I think I'll talk about it. I think I know what you're getting at.
Yeah,
so. All right, so I wanted to bring up the AIM connection because I thought that was really interesting, and it's probably because we've already basically established Hydra in these films, or have begun establishing what Hydra is and everything, and we didn't really need to have.
Like, we really haven't though.
Yeah, well,
like,
you're right.
They were in Captain America: The First Avenger, but then they had come and gone.
Yeah,
you know.
Well,
they don't come back and.
I wonder though at this point if they knew already that it was getting ready to be.
They okay. They
you know what I mean? The plan. So they didn't really need AIM in that role because Hydra was just gonna be Hydra in the movies. So
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So okay. Anyway, continue on with your notes.
Well, so from that point we can move into and talk about the Mandarin, because that's about the time we start seeing the first Mandarin video.
Yeah.
I love this Mandarin so much.
Me too. So I just like all of this stuff.
Like right now or overall? Because yes,
right now.
But
well, I'm gonna say right now.
Okay.
I'm not even saying that overall I dislike it, but like right now, the stuff that they're showing, like the way that they're doing, like the terrorist clips and everything, seems like such the perfect modern day way to do that character. Like it just works so well with the type of character that he always portrayed. It kind of eliminates the magical elements of the Mandarin, because his whole thing in the books was that he had 10 magical rings that each did a certain thing, and they were like alien rings. Like they came from like an alien craft or something. So like that could have tied into the whole galaxy.
Did they come? I thought they were powered by the dragon.
Yes, Fin Fang Foom.
Fin Fang Foom,
who was an alien species.
Oh, was he?
Yes.
Oh, I thought he was.
So Fin Fang Foom.
I thought he was a mystical dragon. I never read Iron Man comics, so I wouldn't know. But
I had to look a lot of this stuff up just to get a refresher on it. But
I'm glad somebody did the research.
So Fin Fang Foom is an alien species whose species resembles these dragons.
Okay.
So like on Earth, yes, everybody's like, oh, a dragon, but he's actually an alien.
Gotcha.
And so yes, the ring. So there's a connection there with Mandarin and Fin Fang Foom, which is going to tie back into I think some stuff at the end of the movie. We might talk about. So
we're already there.
They eliminate the whole rings thing, but like 10 rings has come up as a theme in these movies already.
Yeah, because it was like the terrorist cell in the first Iron Man. Also,
that group was called the 10 Rings. Yes, and they do. Marvel does kind of bring it all around,
right? Which
we can talk about when we get to the end. So, but I love this portrayal of Mandarin.
Yes,
as far as like the way they've basically made him like a modern day terrorist. And all that stuff. It makes him like very scary and like feels like a real threat, and you can feel that in the movie. Like Tony's even just like. He wants to stop this guy, you know, just by seeing all these clips, and I think that's real cool. I think it was well.
Like the way they shoot that stuff and they intercut it in. Also, it feels sort of erratic to the story as it comes in, which works on several levels because it is that way. I mean, like, the Mandarin is breaking into these broadcasts and doing his. His little spiels there, and so when it kind of just cuts into the movie that way, it works perfectly on that level because it puts you in that frame of mind. Also, again, this whole movie is like a fever dream for Tony,
right?
He's in this state of no sleep, of stress, the PTSD effects, all of that stuff that is playing through, and so it kind of puts you in that state of mind with him also, because like the whole movie feels kind of erratic, almost to the point where it would almost feel sloppy if it were a different subject matter, but because of what it's about and the way it plays in, instead it just kind of pulls you into Tony's world right there, and what he's going through.
Right.
So I really like not just the portrayal, which I love, and Ben Kingsley's amazing. Through all that stuff, but just the way it's shot and edited and into the film there. Just everything about it works perfect.
Yep. Okay, so we get that first reveal, and then we also, that's the same time we see that they've upgraded War Machine, not upgraded, but modified War Machine, so now he's the Iron Patriot.
Which Tony hates.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
Well, it's a cool idea.
Tested
honestly.
well with focus groups.
Yeah, dude, this tested well with focus groups. I love that. So this is another one of those things that's a comic thing, but not a comic thing.
Okay.
Because the Iron Patriot was in the books.
Yep.
But in the books, the Iron Patriot was Norman Osborn.
Okay.
And
Oh,
that
wow.
was
Sure.
that was during the era where Norman basically took over S.H.I.E.L.D. and renamed it Hammer.
Yeah.
And like was leading S.H.I.E.L.D., but like doing that thing where like he was like, oh, I'm a good guy, except I'm really a bad guy,
Right.
and I'm building my own Dark Avengers. Basically, like he made a group of Avengers that were bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, the Iron Patriot in the books was Norman Osborn. So this is one of those things where they just took the name and the suit, but like found a whole new thing for it. But I love the idea of it because it's like, so after all the Avengers of the Avengers, the government basically is like created their own
Right.
superhero that they own, right? And that's like the whole concept of that. And I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Because that is totally how our government would react, right?
I think 100%.
Yeah, that is absolutely what they would do. They were like, well, we need one of those. We need one of those that we own.
Yep.
And that's what they did here. They just created their own.
Which is also what they were pretty much trying to do in Iron Man 2, so this is
Right.
just like the next phase of that.
Yes,
you know?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. So, all right. Next note.
Okay. Next note. Well, so then we move ahead. Well, so then Happy gets blown up.
Oh, yeah.
Happy's following Killian's bodyguard and he gets blown up. But the Mandarin takes credit for it. So Tony decides to issue that threat to the Mandarin.
Yeah. Here's my address.
Yeah,
Just
here's
straight
my
gives his
address.
address. And,
Guess what? I just decided you died.
Yeah.
I'm coming to pick up the body. How great of a line is that?
yeah.
You know, that's one of those. Tony Stark gets these lines. You know, I mean, he's always great, but he's just so quippy all the time. You know, it almost becomes, it becomes the standard.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So sometimes he just has these standouts.
Yeah, it takes
and
it
that's
to the next
yeah.
level.
I think that's one of those. So he makes the threat, calls out the Mandarin, but he goes home, and then the botanist chick who developed the extremist that he met in the flashback shows up at his house.
Yeah.
And he's real surprised to see her.
Also, that ridiculously large rabbit.
The giant rabbit's there. So when he's talking to her, another one of these lines, it's not his line though, but he says, "Please tell me there isn't a 12-year-old in the car. Please tell me there isn't a 12-year-old kid in the car." And she says, "Actually, he's 13." This is great. She's just so quick, man.
Yeah, it's good.
It's so I cracked up at that. But that's when we get the attack on the house.
Yeah.
Because they're having the argument. Pepper comes down, meets her. They're all kind of discussing. Pepper wants him to leave, and the botanist chick is like, "Should we be worried about that?" And points at the camera where it shows the slowest missile ever coming towards his house.
Yeah.
So that's my next note is that I hope I get time to ask if we should be worried about the missile coming to my house.
No kidding.
When inevitably that happens.
I know.
This can be arranged.
So now my next note addresses what you mentioned before. So they blow up his house. They put in the full attack on his house. You know, these 3 helicopters that show up. Because I had been thinking, I'd had the same thought too. Like, oh man, I've completely forgotten. And I thought this in the first movie. I was like, oh man, I forgot about the robots. Because the robots are so great in Iron Man 1.
Yeah.
And then when they come back in Iron Man 2, I was like, oh man, there's the robot. I forgot the robots were in this one.
Yeah.
So then when they were in the beginning of 3, of this one, I was like, man, they just kind of dropped these robots, except they totally have a death scene in this movie.
Yeah.
Or in this scene when they're
scene
blowing
right
up this
here,
building.
Yeah, they do.
There's like the one scene where one of them's like blown up and laid over, and the other one's like sat over it as they're sliding into the ocean. It was sounds like legit sad, I don't know if it was just because I was worried, but when that came up, that was one of those moments I was like, I forgot, and I was just had just been thinking earlier. Oh man, I kind of miss those robots. Why'd they just drop those? They're great. Oh, they killed them off.
Yeah.
So I watch these robots die, and I'm like, oh no. But that's a great scene. I think that's a great scene. That's one of those scenes I love that they had given us some Iron Man. They gave us a little bit. They showed us, he did some stuff in the armor. We saw the armor, but when he puts on this when he gets this armor on and turns around to face off against those helicopters, it feels like, it's got that moment. It's got that moment where it's like, all right, Iron Man's ready. Here comes.
Well, it was also really cool seeing that scene where they did where the armor does basically save Pepper.
Yeah.
That was a really neat.
Yeah.
Conceptually really neat, visually really neat. All the way through, and then as soon as she's to safety, and he rips it off of her and gets it himself, and then just gets set up to go.
Yeah, and it zips back onto him. But then it still doesn't work, which I thought was a really cool idea because it still doesn't work. So he's still got to be innovative and shoots the piano. Yeah, he shoots the piano at one.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so there's still some cool stuff there. So that's my next note. I just got that. I just had that moment where I was like, yes.
Yeah, totally.
Yes, Iron Man. Now what? Now what? 3 helicopters.
You just wanted them to take them all out,
right?
And he actually didn't succeed in that.
Yeah, he got 2 of them.
He got 2 of them, and the other one got away. And everybody thought he was dead, right?
Yeah.
This is Tony Stark's dead.
Yep.
That's kind of the reality of everybody else. But we see him fly off and escape and go, which is where he was getting ready to leave to anyway, right?
Yeah.
He was getting ready to head to.
Well, that's because I think he passed out in the process or whatever.
He passes
Jarvis
out.
Just took him to what was loaded into the
the flight plan that he had been preparing.
Yeah.
Yep. So I have a note here again. Another note: the Mandarin is just awesome.
Yeah.
Because he does another one where he comes on and takes credit for killing Tony Stark.
Yeah.
That's just awesome. Everything the man. Yeah, I love those Mandarin scenes. So one of the things here I was thinking about that doesn't come back later. It seems like Jarvis is loaded into the suit in this one, and in some of the later movies, and I'll have to double check as we're watching them, it doesn't seem like the AI is loaded into the suit. Particularly Infinity War, he loses touch with the AI. So I don't know.
I'd have to pay more attention too. I think that might be advancement though, because I know I think it's in Age of Ultron when he loses Jarvis, and he's got to he's going through a catalog of new programs or personalities or whatever. So it seems like he's still got to actually make the choice to find something to load in.
Yeah.
But then you're right. I think later on it's all via comm and everything. And,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that just stuck out to me because he flies across the country and crash lands, but Jarvis is still in the suit with him the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a small thing. I was kind of like, I'll have to see how that plays out throughout the rest of the movies. It also seemed weird because that's like his suit he's still developing. It's not like one of his good suits, you know what I mean? This is the Mach 42 that's half fallen apart and barely works.
Right.
Is not, but it's got Jarvis loaded into it. Okay, maybe. So he crash lands in the middle of the Midwest to follow up with one of the other Mandarin bombings.
Yep.
Or it wasn't the Mandarin bombing, right?
It was one that he suspected.
This was one that fit the profile of the Mandarin bombings,
Yeah.
but had not been claimed by the Mandarin.
Yeah. Yes.
So that's why he was there to check it out.
Yeah.
I also Tony Stark isn't known as a detective, but he's got some Batman-esque scenes in this one.
Totally.
There's some parts, especially when he's discovering this and deciding to go to Tennessee or wherever it is in the first place.
Yep.
He's got that computer model around him of the scene where Happy blew up.
Right.
And I think part of the scene of this bombing and stuff like that, and it really is reminiscent to me of kind of the detective stuff that you do in the Arkham games.
Oh yeah,
the Batman stuff
totally.
right there, and it's kind of one of those where I was like, man, this is really cool in an Iron Man movie. I'd like to see this in a Batman movie sometime.
Yeah,
right.
That'd be neat.
Yep. So I did kind of think it was I know he's dead. I know he's there doing something. He's still a billionaire. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and he he's just stuck in this town, breaks into some random, single mom's house and is totally just gonna steal whatever he wants from their garage.
Yeah.
I
mean, he's trying to stay dead. So it's one like he can't help but be recognized once in a while, but he does try to cover his face up as much as he can in general. And other than that, he can't just start using his credit card, because
but I also don't know if I think I buy that he would need to stay dead. You know what I mean? Like, you're still Iron Man. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I don't know. I was watching him drag his suit and break into that house and well, I would say harass that little kid. My thought with him breaking in and taking whatever he wants would be how it ends up turning out anyway. I was like, he can buy that family a brand new house as soon as all this is said and done, which is essentially what he does. Like, he loads that kid's garage up for him at the end.
Yeah.
I thought the kid was a neat touch too. I thought that was a nice little addition.
I did like it. Yeah.
Brought up some good lines and stuff too.
Yep, their interaction was a lot of fun. I enjoyed the kid.
There was a lot less of them than I remembered. For some reason, like, my memory of this movie was that it was Tony Stark and some kid hanging out for the whole movie. Yeah. But that's totally not what this is.
Yeah.
Like,
this is Iron Manning.
Yeah. it really... I mean, he's only there for a very small portion in the middle.
Perfect dose, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Definitely.
Plus, I love the skipping ahead a little bit, but the scene when Tony's taking off in the car and the kid's just standing there. He's like, "Are you gonna leave me like my dad did?" Tony's like, "Yeah." Wait, are you guilting me? Yeah. Like, he doesn't care, and then he realizes.
So I thought it was interesting. Because the kid asks him at one point straight out if he has PTSD.
Yeah.
And he says, I don't think so. And, I wasn't, I don't know. I wasn't sure how to feel about that. Because, I mean, on one hand, Tony Stark obviously doesn't want to admit that he has PTSD.
Right.
And, I don't know how much people with PTSD realize that they have it. I mean, I'm sure it depends on
circumstance.
On the but it was one of those things where it felt real true to me for him to be like, I don't think so. The way he responded to that and the way he'd responded to it.
Yeah.
Throughout the movie. But there was also and probably how it should feel. Because you almost feel you almost have that feeling like, man, you're Tony Stark. You're the smartest dude. You don't know you have PTSD. You obviously have PTSD.
Yeah.
And I suppose, so I'm sitting there thinking that, having these feelings, and I think that's real smart because, like, man, how easy, like, that's probably how it would feel if I knew Tony Stark.
Yeah.
And I was like, clearly you have PTSD.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I don't. I don't want to.
Well,
what I mean? So
none of us know anyone as smart as Tony Stark, but we all know people who have fairly obvious issues that they're the only ones who don't know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that really kind of hit me, and
aren't I? I'm just kidding. I know all my issues.
Okay, good. So I think I appreciated that.
Yeah.
My next note, I didn't like that nobody noticed that Tony Stark was in that big superhero smash up in the middle of town. Like those two guys show up, and the lady and that guy show up. The two extremist soldiers show up and destroy that downtown.
Yeah.
And nobody notices that, and then Tony Stark just steals a car and drives off. Nobody tries to stop him. Nobody's like, "Hey, that's Tony Stark." Nobody's like, "Iron Man is here."
Well, I don't know that a lot of people got a real good look at him, other than the woman he went to the bar to meet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I suppose that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, it was night in a small town bar. You don't expect a dead billionaire.
Yeah.
Especially in a world where, as we see in a little bit here, a lot of people cut their hair. Like Tony Stark, you know what I mean? So.
But he also didn't like sneak out the back after the brawl was over. Like, they were all kind of standing around, you know what I mean? Like afterwards, and they were all kind of standing around on that street, and there was a lot of people around, and he just straight up took the car that they, it was all just kind of like, hey, this thing happened, and now everybody's just standing around. Nobody knows what's going on. You know what I mean?
At that point, too, though, the jig is up as far as the bad guys go, because he knows that they know he's alive.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
Yeah.
probably at that point, it matters a little bit less to be dead still.
Yeah.
So, which is why I guess he can go and use his credit card here soon.
Yeah.
It all makes sense now that we're talking
There we
about
go. It all comes together. It all comes together. This movie is perfect. Okay, so then he goes and he meets the guy in the truck. Mm-hmm. He's gonna make a phone call using the cable truck.
Adam Polly, I think his name is. He was in Happy Endings.
That show is awesome.
Yeah, I super recognize that guy. I did laugh when he shows him that tattoo on his arm. He's like, Hispanic Scott Baio.
Oh, that's me.
Okay, so my next note is why did heating up his arm totally defeat the Iron Patriot? So am I missing some stuff in there, or is that where we go to next?
I mean, as far I don't remember anything super important going in.
Yeah,
they're uncovering more of the story as they go along. Tony's driving in that car and has to do the spin around. That's where he gets into the thing. I think there's a quip about the Iron Patriot name there, which was fun. But they're piecing all of this stuff together about
and he calls Rhodey.
Yeah.
He calls Rhodey in the suit. That's right.
Yeah, and so they're piecing all the stuff together about Killian and the explosions somehow being connected, I think.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out how it leads back to the Mandarin and where it all goes together. And so basically, he's got to go to that TV van to boost some signal to.
Well, he's trying to hack the system before AIM can take control of it.
Okay. Yeah.
Because he gets Rhodey's password.
Yeah.
And it's because it's War Machine Rocks.
With an X.
Yeah, with an X.
With an X.
Yeah. So he's trying to do that. Yeah. So then so he warns Rhodey that they're gonna try to get the president, right? And Rhodey flies up. Is that where Rhodey flies up?
No, I think that's later. That's a little bit later still, I think.
Okay.
Because that's after the compound.
Right.
After they go and find the Mandarin.
That's right.
Yeah. I think we're getting to the point now where.
Well, at this point, this is where they capture the Iron Patriot.
Yeah.
And I just remember that he just grabs his arm and heats up the suit, and the suit just falls over dead.
Oh,
so
yeah.
You know what I mean? I didn't that made me super mad.
I just took it as some sort of circuit fry.
Yeah, fried it, I guess.
Which, would make the suit useless if it was totally fried. But I don't know.
Yeah, that was dumb. There's just no, it's one of those things where, okay, we can't have a big, 10-minute fight where our villain defeats the Iron Patriot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Let's just do this. And they'll just have to accept it.
Yeah, we got to get him caught.
Right.
Okay, fine, he's caught.
So he's on his way. He stops by the hardware store.
Yeah.
And builds all those gadgets.
Yeah.
Which is a fun little scene. And I think it's super cool. I really enjoy seeing him be super heroic without being Iron Man.
Yes.
Although I also think it's funny he goes and builds all those weapons. He's in Tennessee, man. He probably could have just bought. He just could have bought a taser and a couple.
And you can't tell me he was looking for non-lethal means because he murdered a bunch of those things. Yeah.
For sure. So I thought that was funny. You could have just bought a bunch of stuff, bro. You didn't have to build all that. But he also he was using the build. He was kind of having a freak out moment.
Yeah.
And so he was using the building, the tinkering to kind of set his mind straight.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's.
Who was it? Was he talking to the kid on the phone?
Yeah.
You're the mechanic. Build something.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which I thought was a really well done scene too, like the way, you watching him have a panic attack and then come out of it.
Yep.
Because of that. You know?
And it was cool. I just wanted to make the joke before I brought up how much I actually liked that. Okay, so this is where we finally get, he builds some gadgets. He comes in as not Iron Man, storms the facility, and finally uncovers comes face to face with the Mandarin.
Uh-huh.
And I freaking love it, man. It is so... I love everything about it.
Dude, nobody saw this coming.
Nobody saw it coming.
Nobody saw it coming.
They hit it so well.
Yeah, big swerve. He's just an actor.
He's just an actor.
A dopey, goofy,
completely
British guy.
Yeah.
Drunk, drug addict.
Yeah. Well, even the one point I love when he's like I was totally strung out. I was out of drugs or whatever, and they approached me, and Tony Stark's like, they took you to rehab, or they got you. He's like, no, they got me more drugs. I was like, awesome, yes.
I like how they play that confusion of that scene so well.
Mm-hmm.
Like Tony thinks this is the Mandarin is going at him,
and
Trevor Slattery thinks he's being robbed.
And
is going at it that way. And like they play it. Again, on paper, it feels like it would have looked like they played it way too long.
Right.
But in practice, it was just like it just keeps going and it's perfect.
Yeah.
And then the main henchman guy or whatever comes and knocks Tony out right away, and that was perfect because he's like, "What did you tell him, Trevor?" Nothing. Didn't tell anything.
Although you just told him everything. That's the thing. You just told him everything.
That's when he's like, you could have just pushed the panic button. And he's like, well, I panicked, but then I figured it out.
So now we're at the point where I'll say I love the Mandarin overall. Mm-hmm. I love what they did with it. I love that he was a fake.
Yep.
I love
Mandarin.
He felt so menacing early on, and then he was not.
And it's the perfect plot point too, because the whole reason he was created was to take credit for all these accidental explosions that were too big to hide.
Yep.
So instead, you turn him into this giant thing, and it was such a great evil plot.
Yeah.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
It was. Yep. For sure.
I remember being a little disappointed in the theater when this happened because I was like, what? This is what they're doing with the Mandarin? And I think that was a lot of people's reactions because I do remember people like complaining about that because Mandarin was kind of like the arch enemy for Iron Man, right?
Yeah.
Like that was the way he was always portrayed. I remember the Iron Man animated series. He was definitely the arch villain in that show.
I think he was the biggest Iron Man villain, at least at the time.
Yeah. So I remember at first kind of being like, well, this is the MCU treatment we're gonna get to Mandarin. I don't know how I feel about that. I definitely liked it much better this time around watching it than I did the first time. But I don't know. Then I guess it's worth mentioning too, since we've already reached this point, that they do that little extra short film thing, right?
Yeah, because we really haven't brought up any of the one-shots.
Yeah, so they did that. Well, have they had any before this one?
They started. I think they at least started at the Avengers. The Avengers had one, I know.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe that was after. Maybe this was the first movie that one came in on.
Because this one,
or maybe the first one was about the Avengers.
And I think it's on Thor: The Dark World where this short is.
Oh, is it
right?
I think that's right.
Is it that quick?
Yeah, I think it's on Thor.
That's the next movie, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's on there.
I thought there was a longer turnaround than that.
No, I don't think so. Because it felt like they were trying to fix what people were upset about with it, but I kind of dug it too. They basically they fought.
Well, I was happy with this turn, and then I was happy when they did that too.
Yeah. So like we get to see Trevor in prison.
Yeah.
And he's like super popular in prison, like telling all his stories and everything.
And he's in prison with Justin Hammer.
Yeah, he's in prison with Hammer. And then ultimately, I mean, like it basically boils down to the reporter lady that's there interviewing him is actually from the Ten Rings.
Yeah.
And she basically says that the real Mandarin sent her to get him because he is upset with him for pretending to be the Mandarin.
Yeah.
So now we know that there is a real Mandarin and that he's connected to the Ten Rings.
Yeah.
So that's what that whole thing kind of sets up. So I think that's kind of cool. Of course, that hasn't been revisited ever since. So
I'll be surprised if it ever is.
Yeah, they probably won't ever touch back on it. But he's out there. The real Mandarin's
unless
out
there's
there.
an Iron Man 4 at some point.
Yeah.
But that's, I mean, it'd be real hard. We can't talk about the Mandarin without talking about, the Yellow Terror.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes. You're right.
That he was drawn from.
Yeah.
And that'd be real tough to do today, especially they want to, I mean, they did it well with him, but also
The animated series made him green. Do you remember that?
Nah.
He was like a green-skinned guy in the animated series.
Just like a full-on alien.
Yeah, just like an alien dude. And I guess that was probably their way of getting around the kind of racially insensitive character that he was, basically. Yeah. So, but yeah, which is why I think they did such a good job of portraying him the way they did.
Yes.
As the terrorist kind of character.
Yeah.
So, but, yep.
Well, it's, because they gave the 10 Rings connection in the first Iron Man, but that's more of Middle Eastern terrorist cell, and then they actually introduced him in Iron Man 3, except he's an English actor,
Right.
But you can't get around the fact that his name is the Mandarin.
Yeah.
So you gotta you can't just go, well, we'll make him a different nationality. Yeah, they kind of did because they did it twice more or less, except he's still called the Mandarin.
Yes. Right. Yeah, totally. All right, where are we at now?
Okay, so now we're at the part where so we should probably mention that not only have they captured Rhodey, they had already captured Pepper, and now they have also captured Tony Stark. But before we get back to that, we have the scene where they're trying to get Rhodey out of the Iron Patriot suit. Because they captured the suit, but he's just like, well, I'll just stay in here. You guys never get me out. You can't break into Iron Man's suit. You guys never get me out. So Aldrich Killian comes in, starts heating up the suit, like on the stomach, starts heating it up. To the point where the suit's going to open up and eject him, basically. I love that he just pops out of that suit and starts fighting everybody.
Yeah, because he's like, all right, here we go. And he just comes out and just like,
we
super punches that dude.
I feel like we forget because he falls into such a sidekick role. He's like a legit military. You know what I mean? So he's
way harder than Tony.
Yeah, exactly. He's a total soldier.
Metrics,
So I love that little when we get those little reminders. This scene where he's like, all right, here we go, and he just jumps out and starts fighting everybody. That's a great little reminder. I love that scene.
And then Killian breathes fire at him.
That's my next note because he's like, you breathe fire, and then he just gives up. He's like, all right, well, that's all. That's as far as it goes on this one. So then we play through where they're trying to get Tony to fix the extremist stuff.
We have the showdown with, not showdown, but the little back and forth with Killian and Tony.
Yep.
And the botanist comes back there.
Yep, and he kills her. Aldrich kills her.
Yep. Which is real. I mean, this is probably the best time to bring up more of the behind the scenes stuff going into this movie.
Okay.
Because this is it was a little while after it came out. I think it was Shane Black who was the one talking most openly about it. But Rebecca Ferguson was supposed to be the main villain of this movie.
Oh.
Like, she was written as the bad guy.
Okay.
I don't know specifically what Killian's role would have been.
Right.
Maybe he would have been the one who died here, or maybe it would have been a total reversal or whatever. But this was before a lot of the studio shakeups had come around, when it was still being run more traditionally by division or whatever, and one of the heads of one of the departments of somebody who never should have had any say over anything decided that having a female villain might hurt toy sales.
Oh, boo.
Nobody was going to buy a female action figure.
They never even made a figure of Killian.
I know. And if they had, also,
Mandarin,
no one would have bought it.
Yeah.
Nobody was going to be rushing out to buy Aldrich Killian toys either, clearly, by any means.
These guys sometimes, man.
Yeah.
They just don't really get how it all works.
But that's kind of one of those. I'm really glad I didn't find out about that until after the movie came out and had been out for a while, because I think it really would have. And you can't. It's not Shane Black's fault. It's not Robert Downey Jr.'s fault. It's no one who was actually even really involved in the movie's fault, except for the people who, at some point somebody went, I guess we'll just acquiesce.
Right.
To some degree, it's that guy's fault. I don't know if that's Kevin Feige or who that would be, because I don't know exactly how the power structure was there then. But honestly, I believe that's one of the catalysts that really pushed that split towards happening, to the point where he was just over everything.
Yeah.
There's a few things that kind of happen around this era chronologically that kick some of that stuff into gear, where they really separate it out and he really takes control. Because around this time they had sort of a writer's room working on it also, and so there was more voices going on. Again, everything they were doing clearly was still working because the movies are all still pretty good.
Right.
But there's a clear separation coming shortly where all of that stuff goes away and he really becomes the guy and everything,
Right.
Phase 3's Phase 2's good. Phase 3's a lot better than Phase 2.
Yeah.
And again, it's sad that it happened this way, but if this was one of the catalysts, at least we got something good out of it.
Right.
But this is, every time I watch this movie now and remember that, this is the scene where I really go, man, what was this movie supposed to have? Was it a straight role reversal? Was she supposed to kill him right here and then the rest of the movie happens?
Yep.
Or did they have a whole different plan that they had to rewrite now?
Yeah.
Because of this dumb decision.
Yeah. Wow.
Because that could have been really interesting.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, so that's interesting, and maybe this is a good time to bring up because I was really going to say I feel like this is the first time I kind of so they always make there's always the kind of thing that Marvel doesn't have good villains or that the villains aren't well motivated. This is kind of the first time I feel like these guys are just here doing evil stuff to do evil stuff.
Yeah.
I don't feel like Aldrich Killian has a real good motivate. Like, what's his motivation? He needed to cover some stuff up. Okay. So that your cure can work. You know what I mean? Like,
he needs to keep the research going.
He needs to keep the research going.
I'm not saying it's super strong or that it's weak necessarily, but when you get I completely buy the idea that a guy in that state and level of power and research. I mean, he's also a scientist at heart. And so the idea, I don't know how well they explicitly said it, but the idea that he's got this thing that he's working on that's basically turned into his life's work, and now that people are exploding, nobody's going to let him do it, so he's got to figure out how to keep doing it. And also, it's made him what he is. It's turned him in from a dweeb who can't walk straight into a supermodel that can breathe fire.
Yeah.
He probably doesn't want to lose that either.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying it's the strongest motivation in the world, but I'm fine with it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I'm just saying, one, right? Like I get there's a level of motivation to be like worldwide supervillain motivation who suddenly decides to build an army of super soldiers that Iron Man has to fight with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like maybe
fair call there.
Yeah. Maybe this is a little weak. Motivation. You saying all that, and I had never heard that before about her supposing to be the main villain. It starts to make a lot more sense if it is your life work. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like that motivation becomes a little stronger if she's the one going, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to make this work, and if I have to kill everybody to make it work, I've been working on this my whole life. It's probably a little stronger than him just going, she developed this thing, but now I'm a killer because I can. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've already got my army of super soldiers that are going to explode, maybe, or they won't. like, okay, guys. Okay, so then from there, I really like. So they go up, they try to save the president. Iron Man calls a suit, and it doesn't come for a really long time.
Because it was stuck in that barn.
Yeah.
Like, I like how the Iron Man suit can't break through that old wooden door.
Yeah.
Well, I want to know how one piece got out.
Yeah.
Because like the glove comes. Yeah.
He's like, where's the rest of it? Yeah.
I also really laughed when that one dude knew how far away Tennessee was. Because he asked him, he's like, how far away is such and such Tennessee? And that one dude's like, I don't remember what the number is, but that one dude like nails it exactly. And he's like, and they're both like, good job.
Yeah.
That made me laugh. But then they did, it's only charged to 92%. And he's like, I guess that'll have to do. Like, in what scenario would that not do?
Yeah, 92% seems pretty good.
Right. If my phone is charged to 92%, I don't think my phone is ever charged for 92%. If I leave it plugged in for 3 days, I don't think it charges for 92%.
I like how long he sits there, because he tells that one guy, like, that guy breaks his watch, he's like, all right, I'm going to kill you first. And they kind of laugh at him, and then he keeps him talking, then he sets it up, then he starts doing that thing where he's like, and here! And the arm doesn't come.
Right.
And then he just keeps doing that, like, over and over to the point where they're like, all right, you got to cut this out.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so then he kills him. He starts taking all the guys out, and that one dude just gives up. He's like, "Hey man, I hate working here. They are super weird," and he just lets him run away.
Yeah. Honestly, I hate working here.
Yeah. I laughed real hard at that. So then he flies up because now the Iron Patriot suit has been sent to get the president.
Yeah.
He flies up to try and avert that. He's too late, but he does save everybody. They do the barrel of monkeys scene.
Yeah, you find out too because the Iron Patriot kind of comes into Air Force One, like everybody thinks it's Colonel Rhodes.
Yep.
This is also where him and Rhodey have gotten back together, and they've confronted the Mandarin before this.
Right.
Rhodes, because Rhodes confronts the Mandarin and does the same thing that Tony did, and Tony's just kind of in the background, like it's a whole thing. We'll get to it, which is another hilarious scene because again, it goes on too long.
Yep.
But not too long because it's perfect.
Yeah.
But they call the vice president to warn him.
Yes.
About what's going on, and there's that scene there where they give him the whole spiel, and he's like, "Okay, we'll take care of it. We'll do this. Good luck, whatever." And then he hangs up, and this guy comes up and is like, anything going on, sir? And he's like, nope, everything's fine. And he just goes back to his party. And they show he's got a young daughter who's in a wheelchair with missing a leg.
Right.
So basically, you just kind of infer that obviously he's working, or he's in the pocket of Killian.
Yep.
Hoping to regrow his daughter's leg.
Right.
So.
And I'm sure he wouldn't hate becoming the president of the United States.
Probably.
That's
probably not a downside.
Seems like a win-win for him.
Yeah.
Right. So Air Force One gets ripped apart, and everybody who's not the president is falling to their death.
Yeah. We also haven't pointed out that the president of the MCU is Death from Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
I didn't realize that. That's amazing.
Yeah. Good tribute.
Also the bad guy from Die Hard 2. And a ton of other things.
Yeah.
William Sadler's done a lot, but
the barrel of monkey scene.
The barrel of monkey scene.
Yeah.
I love the barrel of monkey scene. It's just it's one of those moments where it's just such a superhero moment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where because we kind of, these movies, kind of get us into the weeds sometimes because they want to explore, Tony's been running around with PTSD.
Right.
You know what I mean? And he didn't have the Iron Man suit and, built some little homemade gadgets and then murdered a bunch of people. You know what I mean? We've got the Mandarin is this, super intense terrorist. So it's almost, not that it's necessarily been dark, but it's not classic superhero fare. It's not the superheroes we grew up with.
Exactly. And I would call it dark, especially by Marvel standards.
Probably. Yeah. So it's great to have this little moment where he stops. Everything stops because he has to save these 16 people and he has to figure out how to do it because the suit can't catch all of them and support all of them.
Right.
So I love that scene, and I love that they take that time and he saves all those people.
And then he's not even in the suit.
Yeah, then we find out he's not in the suit. The suit's being remote controlled.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like he just gets hit by that truck.
Well, because they keep doing the flashbacks like they always do to him, where it looks like he's in the suit and he's got the screen and everything like that. And then right at the end, like you said, he drops everybody off, and then he kind of backs into the highway and gets destroyed by a truck.
Yep.
And then the Brody opens the door behind him, and you find out he's just on a boat.
I
got them all.
Yeah. That was awesome.
So then we basically move into the final fight.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I think it's another cool moment there where we get to see Rhodey kind of leading the way because Tony Stark's not a soldier and he can't. They both have guns and they even have the one scene where he takes a bunch of shots and he's like, "You didn't get the light," and he's like, "Nobody could hit that shot," and Rhodey just turns around and shoot like over his shoulder, like one arm looking, just shoots out the light.
I also love when they're sitting there and Tony's like, "I need some more magazines," and he's like, "They're not just interchangeable."
Yeah.
He's like, "You got a bunch of them." Like, they don't fit that gun.
That was ridiculous.
Yeah. So it's a good little moment. It's a good little moment, to kind of, I don't know, give Rhodey a little moment before the house party protocol. Which I guess is what we'll go to next. So, so now we've got Iron Man calls for all his Iron Man suits.
Yeah.
And all the Iron Man suits show up.
So many different suits.
Yeah, I really like this scene.
Yeah,
I think it's a real fun scene.
When we talked about Iron Man 2, I think I kind of dogged it and you talked it up. And
Yeah.
I'm going to completely reverse.
Yeah.
I really dug it a lot more.
Yeah.
Watching it through this.
I think
time.
my favorite part is watching him hop between them.
Yes.
I think that's awesome. Watching him switch between suits.
And I love and when they show up and he won't give Rhodey one.
Oh yeah.
They're all coded to me.
Oh yeah.
Which gives Rhodey some more hero moments too, because he's got to go save the president by himself. You know?
Yeah.
Without a suit.
Yeah, he's still running around helping. He's trying to save Pepper. And so this is where he's trying to save Pepper, and she falls. She's in part of the building, and that part of the building gets destroyed.
Yeah.
And we get that slow where she like falls into the fire. And you know, I really tried knowing where this goes. I really tried to remember, and I could not remember how I felt the first time I saw it, and I really wish I could.
Yeah, I don't think I ever bought it.
Yeah.
I don't. Well, I'm not positive, but I don't think I did.
We knew she had been dosed with the extremist stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and I can't remember, and that's what I'm trying to remember. You know, I feel like I would remember if I thought she had died. You know, if I thought that moment, you know, I feel like I would remember that. So I think it's a weak point in the movie because, I mean, I guess we kind of had to dose her with the extremists so that Tony would be motivated to cure the extremists. But given that he basically was pretty much just immediately like, I have no idea how to cure the extremists. You know what I mean? Like, it almost feels like they could have just pointed a gun to her head and been like, oh, if you don't fix extremists, we'll shoot her. He's like, I don't know how to do that. Oh, okay.
We totally glazed over that, though, which is it's just such a Shane Black plot point to me, I think. And I can't even remember exactly when it was, but at some point when Tony's talking to the botanist, you know, before she's dead, about, because they're all trying to get him to help basically fix this equation, and he's like, you know, he's got the name tag from that night somehow. He's like, I fixed it that night. It's right here. And like, it's like she never noticed it. She's like, what? Like, you did this? Like
she had it.
Yeah.
He had left it for her, so she had it.
Yeah.
The name tag.
But like he had basically already fixed the equation, and she hadn't noticed or something like that. Because I remember her being like, you know, like, you did this that night or whatever or something like that, and he's like, well, I remember the night, I don't remember the morning or something along those lines, you know. But it was like I got the impression, at least, maybe I read it wrong, that like she pretty much had most of what she needed right there, or at least a good portion of it, and didn't even realize like how much he had done for her. And because she was so surprised, she's like, you did that on a whim, you know, like you just did that and that was it, and then forgot about it, you know. He's like, yeah, whatever, you know.
See, I took it the other way, that he, you know, like maybe he had started solving it but hadn't finished, so she needed him to help him finish. I don't know. I mean, you could.
I'll have to go back and rewatch and find that scene and rewatch it.
Yeah.
Either way they play it, like it's
either way, Yep. But so back to Pepper. You know, I feel like it was probably kind of weak for them to give us that. Well, she's already been dosed with the extremists, so you know, we know she's going to be fine when she falls into the fire, or if they thought we'd forget, or if that was just, you know, I don't know, because it was a pretty dramatic scene, and like, you know, man, did we kill off Pepper? No, I know we didn't. You know. I'm
trying to remember if any of that stuff with like her at the end was even in the trailers or something somewhere, but I don't think it was. But for some reason, I do not think it for a second. I thought she.
Yeah, I'm the same. I don't remember.
Yeah.
It's got to be just because she was already all glowy and everything, right? Like they kind of set it up that it's like, well, obviously she'll survive the fire because she's already a Bernie lady.
Yeah.
You know. So I don't know.
So finally we also see Killian. He takes off his shirt and he's got the dragon tattoos, which I thought was super awesome. You know, just to kind of be another throwback to the real power behind the Mandarin being the dragon. You know, I mean, it's not like he was like, I'm actually Fing Fang Foom, you know. But they kind of called back to that.
Yeah,
the real
and that was
power.
what I had mentioned earlier. Kind of what I was talking about, like where that all plays into it, because they kind of like it's another one of those things where they're bringing. Like now they're referencing Fin Fang Foom.
Yes.
But to
like
what
he breathed
degree
fire
is this,
too.
You know,
He breathed fire. He's got the dragon tattoos, all that good stuff.
He calls himself the Mandarin here.
Yeah,
but that's another
just,
one where like I never really bought that.
No, that's just
yeah.
He's protecting the real Mandarin by saying something like that. That could be easily explained as something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's just I think this was just their way of doing Fin Fang Foom in the MCU without actually giving us a big crazy dragon thing.
Yeah.
Which whatever, they would totally give us a big crazy dragon thing. Like they've given us all kinds of other stuff. Right?
Well, now I mean this is still
this is still kind of early on, I guess.
Yeah, and we've still got Dark World where they're not quite. You know, it's still kind of like aliens and you know. Other worlds, not necessarily gods and you know full-on sci-fi fantasy.
Right.
So
that's true.
you know they're still kind of holding back a little bit.
That's how Guardians kind of.
I was about to say, I think we forget how many doors Guardians really open.
Yeah, for sure. I think in the books, Fin Fang Foom, one of his things is like a possession thing. Like I think he can do possession and control people.
Oh, that makes sense.
So if Killian and all the extremist people are basically like under this possession or whatever of Fin Fang Foom, that works, right? Like that makes sense too of what they're doing. So that's cool.
So I enjoy it. So regardless of how I felt about Pepper's fall, when Pepper comes back and saves the day in the end, that's awesome.
Yeah, totally.
I super enjoyed that.
Yep.
And I didn't remember, you know, kind of like be like, hell yeah, get him, Pepper.
Yeah.
You know?
I love how the suit targets her because of the heat signature.
Oh, yeah,
and he's like tries to stop it.
Yep.
And then she just does that awesome like backflip thing and like catches the gauntlet.
Rips one
of
the arm off.
Yeah, like puts on the gauntlet and just like starts winning. And then she's like, oh, that was violent. Like after she does it. Yeah, that was good.
Yep.
This is shortly after the ultimate demise of the Mark 42 also.
Yeah.
Because he does that like he's in the middle of that fight with Killian and he's calling it to him and it's about to come and
it comes in late.
Him. It comes in a little bit late and then it hits itself on the way and just explodes again. And he's just standing the whole time like, yep, you know.
That stupid suit.
Yep. And then he calls it one more time to actually engulf Killian and then blows it to smithereens.
Yeah.
That's kind of where you think for half a second maybe the movie's over.
Yeah.
And then Killian comes back and then Pepper comes back and now we're all, you know, all that stuff right there. But God, like the like you said, the journey of that suit, it's just being such a dub the whole time.
The Mark 42 did not work.
Yep. All right, so we defeat Killian.
Yeah.
And then Tony Stark decides to do the clean slate protocol and destroy all his suits.
Yeah.
I don't buy it. I get that that's like the evolution of the character and where we needed to be at that point.
Right.
I know that, you know, he kind of did it for Pepper, you know what I mean, and she appreciated it. I feel like seconds after we've defeated the army of indestructible super soldiers might be too soon to destroy our only weapon against the army of indestructible super soldiers.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
Well, so, you know, like it's one of those things, like we talked about earlier, it was kind of like we all knew that Tony Stark isn't going to stop making Iron Man suits, so it's not like it's a full closure, but it's one of those things where it feels like they're giving us a moment where if we have to look back on this as an end, something happens there, you know? Yeah. But even like you said, at no point am I like, oh, I guess he's done being Iron Man. He even says at the end, like, no matter what, I am Iron Man.
Right. Yeah.
Again, also, if you want to delve too far into it just to try to spin it to make it work better, these are mostly suits that he's created during this weird funk phase. Yeah. We don't know if half these things work any better than Mark II does.
Fair so and most of them have been getting torn apart with relative ease.
Exactly. So I just kind of took it as a leveling off, restarting point anyway. Yeah. And again, fine with it.
Yeah. Again, fine with it. Would have been a little more fine with it had they waited, you know, like the next day, you know, after we know that all the indestructible super soldiers are dead and we're past that, you know, like, you know, because they go on to show us, you know, like a montage of him doing the surgery on himself and actually getting the shrapnel taken out, you know, different stuff like that, curing Pepper of the extremist stuff. So like he did all that. We could have added in a scene there where like a few days later he lines up and takes her out and destroys them all in front of her. You know what I mean? Like that could have been a scene.
Totally.
You know,
I see that. Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Didn't ruin the movie for me. I still love this movie. And talking back through it, I do think it's my favorite Iron Man. And I really, really, really loved the ending, like the end. It's like a 70s action TV show. Where they kind of went back and had all these different scenes and stuff.
From all three Iron Man movies.
Awesome.
That was cool.
Yeah. When by the time we got to like that was the capper for me. I love that whole movie. I love everything about that movie. It's probably my favorite Iron Man movie without that. But like when it gets to that scene, I'm just like, psh.
Yeah.
Yep, let's do it.
Well, that's
this
the thing
is
that,
it
too,
for
that
me.
kind of made it feel like they were wrapping up his story, right? Like that's what that felt like right there.
Yep.
But, yeah, I enjoyed it a lot, and I definitely liked it more this time than I did the first time I watched it. There was so much about it, like I said, that I just did not remember. So it was kind of fun going back and I'm glad that I went back and watched this one.
Yeah.
Because it is a very good movie.
I gotta start remembering this every December.
No, because it's a Christmas
our
movie.
Only Marvel Christmas movie so far, and I hope they make another at some point. But at least we got one.
At least we got one Marvel Christmas movie.
And then our post-credit sequence.
Oh yes,
also.
yes.
Which is kind of what ties the whole narration thing together. You know, really, because the whole movie, Tony's telling the story of the movie, and you get to the end, and he comes up with all these revelations or whatever, and it comes up on him, and he's actually telling the story to someone, and he's telling it to Bruce Banner.
Right.
And so we get Mark Ruffalo sitting there just totally nodded off.
I was going to say who had fallen asleep. He had missed the whole thing.
And he gets to the end of the story, and he says something, and Mark Ruffalo kind of stirs awake, and he's like, what, you know? And he's like, what, were you sleeping?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not that kind of doctor.
Yeah.
You know?
And he looks 87 years old.
It's because of Tony's story, bro.
I guess. So this actually happens after all of the Avengers movies.
It's Tony recapping this one thing that happened to him.
So this is actually a call forward, way forward.
He's like, where did I lose you? Sweden?
Yeah. That was awesome. Yeah, good stuff, man,
good
all
stuff.
around. So what's your rating for the movie then?
This gets 5 Starks from me.
5 Starks. Good stuff. Do we need to do a ranking with all of our movies? Is that how we
No, we're doing it by phase.
By phase?
So
okay.
we got till Ant-Man before we have to rank again.
All right, I like
Till
that.
Ant-Man?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ant-Man's the end of phase 2, which is really weird because it's like I guess Avengers ended phase 1.
So Ultron Age of Ultron is not the end of phase 2?
No, Ant-Man's the end of phase 2.
I don't love it either, but that's how it is.
It's weird.
All right,
yep, that's
fine.
weird. Yep, that's the way it is. All right, cool. Well, next up on tap is Thor: The Dark World.
Yep.
So our second Thor movie, and then we are coming up real quick on Winter Soldier, which is real exciting.
Yeah.
I'm real excited to go back to that one. So.
I'm actually really excited to watch Thor: Dark World.
Yeah.
Because I remember hating that movie.
Really?
Yeah.
So Thor.
I never hated
not as much.
it,
not as much as Iron Man 2.
I can promise you, it's worse Thor.
This is going to be real fun because Thor: The Dark World is one of the very first movies you and I reviewed on this podcast, on the Geek Easy Podcast. We
can just play that episode then. We don't even have to tape the new one.
I think we literally ripped Superman to shreds, and then the next episode we reviewed Thor: The Dark World. I'm almost positive it was kind of in that order.
Remember when we spent like 3 hours talking about Man of Steel?
Yeah. That was a thing.
Yeah. Go back to the archives.
Oh, yeah. It's
episode -58 or something like that.
It's bad. I mean, it's just so long. It's just, we were so mad.
I'm going to go back and re-listen to that.
You should.
I should.
Do it. All right, guys.
Except it'll remind me how much I don't like Man of Steel.
Do you really need to be reminded? I thought that's like a...
I'm sure the refresher would open some scars.
Oh, my God. All right, guys. Well, hopefully you've enjoyed this. If you haven't already, make sure you guys are following the podcast because we've already talked about every movie leading up to this point, and we're going to be doing all the rest of them leading up to Avengers Endgame. So if you want a refresher like what we're doing, or you want to binge listen to all these right before the new movie, that's kind of the whole purpose of these podcasts. So yeah, or both. They are available through the same feed as the main Geek Easy Podcast episodes, so you can follow us on Stitcher, Podbean, Google Play, iTunes, of course, all those good feeds there. And we're also available on YouTube in video form. Just do a search for Geek Easy Podcast, and you'll find all the episodes there. We've got them broken down in playlists, too, on YouTube, so that might help you guys if you want to listen to just the Marvel shows or just the Undertaker shows or whatever. We've got it broken down there.
You can post playlists on YouTube?
Yes, you can.
Yeah, the internet sounds awesome.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, until next time, Marvel good, yay.
The Geek Easy Podcast is a production of PixelDan.com. Musical tracks used in the intro and outro are used with full permission of the respective owners or creators. Intro and outro narrations are provided by me, Brian T. Stevenson. PixelDan.com's The Geek Easy Podcast is provided for entertainment purposes only. The views expressed are those solely of the hosts or guests and do not necessarily represent those of PixelDan.com or any other party. Be sure to join us next time for another installment of The Geek Easy Podcast.
So that pretty much brings us to the restaurant where we were sitting around eating gyros or gyros or whatever they're called. And Jaren was wearing an eye patch. And I don't actually even know what... Are you sleeping?
But well, no, I'm listening. I'm with you. Go on. Where were you?
I'm sitting over here telling you my entire life story and you're falling asleep?
Dan, I'm not that kind of doctor. I'm not even a doctor. We've been over this.
All right, fine. Where did I lose you at?
Man of Steel?
That was like 5 years ago. All right, let me start over. So Clark Kent's walking around. He's homeless, I think. He's got a beard. That movie was so dumb.